I am quite overdue for a no-buy update, so that is what this video is going to be. If you didn't already know, I am trying my best to do a no-buy, low-buy, multiple different types of just reducing my spending for 2025. I have several videos about this on my channel. I'll link some up here in the little cards for you. And if you didn't already know that, you might be new here, so you might want to hit the subscribe button. I've gone through all the nitty-gritty details in those other videos, such as my motivations, my specific no-buy categories, other ways I'm trying to save money. I've been talking about it nonstop. It is kind of the big focus of my life right now. And I plan throughout the year as I go through my no-buy situation to update you probably every other month or so on my wins and my fails, which is what this video is going to be. I feel I have more wins than I do fails, which is a good thing. And I plan to go through the wins first. So without further ado, let's get into it. So one of my rules for my no-buy is to not spend any money on events. So there are so many incredible like community focused events that happen in my city that I feel spending money on them is just not something I want to do. I'm happy to support artists by giving them money if I'm going to a show. I do support people being paid for their work. I want to make that very clear. But I do feel that there are several events that have sponsors or the city puts them on and pays the creators and etc. So it's just a place I decided I can cut spending on. And there's a huge festival that comes to Austin. It's called South by Southwest. It's one of the main motivators for me telling myself I couldn't spend money on events because I didn't want to spend a ton when a lot of people come into town for that. A lot of like my colleagues, my people that I respect in the industry, etc. I just didn't want to spend money when those people were here, and I didn't. I didn't spend any money on any events. I think all year I have not spent any money on going to like an event. Now I almost did, and I would have, because one of my best friend's situationship, I was gonna say partner, but he's definitely not her partner. He was putting on an event which was really cool. They organized a lot of different local artists, etc. And it was actually really expensive to get into this event, which was annoying because the realtor group that we used to buy our house, they have an office and they were hosting it there. But then the entry to get into this event was like $35 or something, kind of ridiculous. I would have bought tickets to that specifically to support one of my best friends, but then we entered a giveaway for tickets to this event and we won them. Madison and I have been having really good luck with winning giveaways. I'm just gonna keep putting that energy out there and hope that we keep getting lucky in those ways. But that is one of my big wins, is that I didn't even have to spend on the one exception that I was going to make because we won a giveaway. Big win on my part. Okay, so we all know the climate crisis is happening. Yes, I recently learned that one of the most impactful ways that climate change will like impact our daily lives is via high winds. And if you live in Austin, Texas, the winds lately have been ridiculous. Like it's just been, I can't even describe it. I've not experienced anything like this. We have had like really high winds for extended periods of time, like all spring. The reason I'm bringing this up is because one of our neighbors doesn't really maintain their fence all that great, and their fence fell over our fence and our fence was down. I just went outside, luckily, this day and noticed that our fence was down and my chickens hadn't run away, thank goodness. And the reason I'm bringing this up is normally because I would try to call someone to help us. I would spend money for a professional to come help us fix the fence. But, you know, my sister-in-law, who is an emergency medicine doctor, calls Google Dr. Google. And I refer to YouTube often as like YouTube the expert, because I swear you can learn how to do anything on YouTube. And in the name of saving money, we figured out how to fix the fence ourselves, and we didn't even have to go buy anything for it because one of our neighbors gave us like cedar wood to fix the fence. And knowing my neighbors in this circumstance and many other circumstances, many such cases we will see throughout this video, my neighbors are my heroes. Super proud of that win, and not jumping to my usual reaction, which would have been to spend money because I'm in my no-buy year. So that just wasn't my first reaction, right? Now, another one of the categories that I am determined not to spend on are subscriptions. Now, in my last no-buy update, I talked a lot about how I found out I had so many subscriptions I was paying for that I didn't even realize, mostly for apps that I had used like for a time or two with work, but they were like constantly withdrawing money from my account. Things like to operate my GoPro account, things to operate my editing account. Like it was just a lot more than I had realized when we started actually looking at every single dollar that was leaving our bank account on a weekly basis. But I did wish that there was a service that could help me do that instead of sitting down and taking literal hours to go through it myself, which is where today's sponsor comes in, and that is Rocket Money. Rocket Money is an easy to use personal finance app that can help you manage your subscriptions, lower your bills, and track your spending all in one place. When I connected my app, it pulled up every subscription I was paying for, even the ones I had forgot about, and I was able to cancel some of them with just a couple taps, which again, after going through the grueling process, is so nice that someone can help you do that. And Rocket Money has helped customers save up to $740 a year when you use all of the app's premium features. And they have specifically helped customers save over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Can you tell I have an emotional attachment to this problem? And because my partner and I do those weekly check-in meetings on Monday, I've been testing out the Rocket tool for their budget planning feature. It helps me stay consistent. It will give me reminders before our bills hit or if my balance is getting low. So if you are also trying to spend intentionally this year or just want to see where your money is going, I highly recommend checking it out. You can go to rocketmoney.com/ShelbyOrm or click the link at the top of the description to try it for free or with even more features with premium. I think it's an incredible service if you are trying to get a hold on your personal finances, so check them out. Okay, so as I mentioned, my neighbors are actually like the heroes of my buy nothing, my no buy journey of 2025. I think that most people who live in my neighborhood are in a similar situation to me, where we are all really lucky that we own our homes and we're really grateful. But at this point, with the way that like housing price costs have gone up, the way cost of everything has gone up, right? We're all kind of just like barely making it by. And so I think like everyone wants community for so many different reasons, but I think more than ever since the beginning of 2025, people are like, I have no choice. Like I need a community to rely on. And I've been really grateful that because I've been going out of my way to make those efforts, other people are reciprocating, I think, because of that. But as a result of the community building with all of those things, I've been able to save a lot of money thanks to my neighbors. So let's get into some examples of that. So in order to get more participation, to get more people interacting with the community of the neighborhood, it takes time, it takes work. I did a whole live stream about this on Earth Day. If you want to learn more about how I did that, why it matters, etc., I'll link it up here. But for me, it's really about being able to rely on each other in hard times. And oh my God, if this is not a hard time, I digress. And one of the ways I'm trying to like get people more involved is to give them passive ways to feel connected, right? So like you don't just go from not knowing someone's name one day to sharing produce from your backyard with them the next. Typically, that's not really how it works. They have to be like kind of slowly brought into a community. That's how community building works. So in order to increase participation, I'm trying to create a passive way people can be involved by building what I'm calling a community stand. If you've ever seen these like farm stands, people will build them to sell things on like the side of the road. That is essentially what I'm doing, but for free. I really wanted to do this without spending much money. I feel building one of these would have been really expensive if I went and just bought all of these materials new. But obviously, I care about getting materials secondhand in general. I care about reusing what already exists on this planet. And so for me, I think building something like this would have defaulted in me trying to find stuff secondhand. But because of the no buy, because of trying to do the low spend, I spent more time trying to gather materials than maybe I normally would. Like I probably would have defaulted to trying, and then if it didn't work out, I would default to going and buying something. I say all this to say I didn't buy almost any new materials to build my community stand because a couple of my neighbors just had wood that they were getting rid of. I think this literally saved me hundreds of dollars in trying to build this community stand because someone was getting rid of like basically a desktop, I guess you would say. Once I found that desktop, I basically tried to build the rest of the stand around that desktop. The roof is just like a pallet that we cut the bottom off. The legs are some 4x4 almost, I think. Pillars that someone was getting rid of, we use old decking material to help build it. All that to say, this is a really great way to plant the seeds, if you will, of community so that we are more resilient, so that we can trade more things, so that we can save money by doing all of those things in the long run. But in the short term, I didn't spend any money to build this community stand because I was able to use my connections in my community to get things for free. And I will talk about the community stand more, obviously, as it exists, but also I did vlog some of the process in my garden update video that is coming soon, like really soon. I just had a lot of things I wanted to update about what's going on with like growing food and plants and stuff. And the community stand is going to be a big part of that because we've been giving our eggs away at the community stand. Obviously, with the way that the world is going and how expensive everything is, eggs are like a huge topic of conversation. So it's been a really great way to get people more engaged in a passive way. And as a result, I had someone come and drop off 2 huge bags of lettuce that they're growing just to give away to the community, which has been one of the most beautiful things to see, because I literally used that lettuce to then host a craft night with my neighbors. So I didn't have to buy food that I served back to my neighbors, and I could cry, but I'm not gonna. This is the whole goal of building community for me, is that when people have things that they don't need, I can get from them. And when people have too much of something, we can share. That is literally the root of why I say community matters so much, because when we are connected, when not so individualistic, we don't all think we have to own everything. We don't all have to grow everything ourselves. That is the point, okay? So when someone dropped lettuce off there the other day, I could have cried, but I'm not gonna do it then, and I am not gonna do it now. I didn't do it then, I'm not gonna do it now. And also, speaking of the lettuce, okay, we live in Austin, Texas. It is hot. Lettuce is not something that is just gonna sit out in the Texas heat and hold like eggs would, or tomatoes, or cucumbers even. It's gotta be kept relatively humid and cool. So when I saw someone put the lettuce out there, I wanted to make sure that as many neighbors as possible would have the opportunity to come by and get some. So I have this like insulated tub, and I put ice in there, but our ice machine doesn't hold that much ice, and so I wanted to make sure that it would stay cold. So I put the ice in the bucket with the lettuce with a wet towel over it. And then I was thinking about what I could do for ice packs, because I didn't have an ice pack, and I filled my stasher bag with water and used them as ice packs, which I felt like was a really good, also a good no-buy hack in case I ever need an ice pack again. In case you need an ice pack, it stopped me from going and needing to buy ice or an ice pack. Instead, I just used what I had and turned it into an ice pack. I feel like that was a really good no-buy win. Even though it seems small, like it was a good win. I was really proud of the creativity of that. Someone also put some plants there that they had extras of. They put a couple like native plants out for people to take. I have seeds out there right now, and it's only been a couple weeks, and people are already interacting with it in a very positive way, and I only look forward to seeing how much more that grows over time. Okay, this no-buy win probably wouldn't have come directly out of my pocket, but in my neighborhood, I'm trying to start this initiative called Neighbor of the Month. It's very simple. Literally, we just nominate someone who did something nice for someone else, and then we highlight them in the newsletter. It's also an attempt to like get to know your neighbors. Like I said, small steps, and we build up over time. I really wanted to entice people to get involved with submitting their neighbors by creating this program and getting it sponsored. I have been known to put my own money into the neighborhood group because I don't want to go through the whole process of getting approval. And it's usually like small amounts, like $20 here, $40 there. I'm trying not to do that anymore, obviously, because of my no-buy. So I went out of my way to try to find a sponsor for this program, to where when we pick someone every month, they can get a $25 gift card to a local business. And I put in quite a bit of time, honestly, to do this, but so that I didn't end up spending my own money on buying this gift card to get people more involved, and I went to a brand anyway, I was actually able to get our Neighbor of the Month program sponsored. I was able to get 4 $25 gift cards, so we are good for the next 4 months, and then hopefully I can find another sponsor. And I feel like that was a huge win for me not spending money, but also for the neighborhood not spending money. It's just like, again, I could talk for hours about how this is like the basis of community building, and how getting local businesses involved and getting more people involved, it's a whole process. But as it pertains to my no-buy, I didn't buy any of the gift cards. The neighborhood association didn't even have to buy any of the gift cards, and I'm really happy about that. Now, another thing on Madison's wish list that we may have bought if this wasn't for our no-buy year is a workbench. Recently, one of our neighbors was getting rid of a workbench, and it's massive. It's actually so perfect for what she wanted. The way we got it home was a little embarrassing, because we put like part of it in the Prius, and it was too long to put it all the way in, so then we walked it all halfway hanging out of my car from my neighbor's house all the way to our house. But regardless, it is something that we did not buy, even secondhand, that we got completely for free, A, because we are plugged into our community, and B, because of our no-buy, because we are not just defaulting to buying things we want, because we're on a no-buy. Now, another thing that's a little bit tricky that is on my like reduce buy, maybe my low buy list for 2025, is gas. Fossil fuels and those sort of things for my car. I think my car is like very fuel efficient. That's great and all, but my goal is to buy as little this year as possible by using my e-bike instead. We live in a place that is bike friendly, I would say, and the only reason that we don't use it all the time is usually because of the weather. When it's really hot and I'm going somewhere where I'm going to like be interacting with people, I can't be sweaty and just like absolutely disgusting. So in those cases, I use my car, or if it's not bikeable, like when we had to take canopies to an event the other day, I had to drive. But regardless of all of those things, I do feel that we have gone out of our way to bike a lot more often, and especially because of parking prices, okay? When we're going somewhere that's downtown or doesn't have, like, I don't know, a parking lot, which is pretty common, I would say, for where we're going, we will bike because we don't have to pay for parking, which means we spend less money there. We spend less money on gas to drive, even though that's a minimal when it's just in town, right? But over time, you realize that when you're racking up thousands of miles on your e-bike, you're saving a lot of money in gas in that way, and also in parking costs and car maintenance costs and all of those sort of things. I actually posted a video on Instagram where I talked about things that I got to see because I was biking instead of in my car, because it does require you to just like kind of slow down and pay more attention, which can be a privilege in and of itself. Like, I always acknowledge that. I'm really proud that we've gone out of our way to plan to be able to bike to more places rather than driving. So obviously community is a huge part of my like strategy for my no buy year for 2025. Another one is entertainment through like value-based things, or just things that add value to my life rather than suck it away from me. And so community is a huge part of it, but also is sewing specifically. I love creating things. I love having things that I have made with my own hands, but sewing might be my favorite thing that I have tried so far. It's a huge focus for me for 2025. And as of right now, I have completed, I think, 5 projects, all of which I got most of the material for free. My neighbor gave me the fabric I used for my most recent project, this skirt. I got the green fabric for my vest for free. The blue fabric I did thrift, but it was literally like $2. And I think as far as like my no buy goes, the goal is to spend less money on clothing, obviously, and things, and focus more on doing. And so finishing 5 sewing projects is a huge win for me in my no buy, because I do think like creating things is taking me out of the consumer culture and this like perpetual cycle of feeling like I need the next best outfit. I really think sewing has taken me out of that cycle. And so being able to complete 5 projects is like a huge win, I think, for my buy nothing goals. Those are my wins, things I successfully prevented myself from buying things for. I'm really proud of all of them. And these next few have wins in them, but also not so positive aspects of them. The first one is that I got a chicken for free, which is a really positive thing. It just still feels a little bit weird to talk about as a positive thing because I'm just not as removed from it. But I did end up getting a free chicken a couple months ago, specifically because one of my other chickens passed away. And again, like, I'm not trying to get into all the details here because that is part of my garden update and why it's been delayed for so long. And I'll talk about it more there. But yeah, one of our chickens passed away, and I always knew that because I only have 2 chickens and they're flock animals, that I would have to get another one pretty quickly if one of them ever passed. When she did, I just immediately went on like backyard chicken groups and asked if anyone had chickens that they wanted to rehome, and I got another one. I first went to the sanctuary where we originally got them and asked her if she had any hens, but she didn't. And so then I went to the Facebook groups. That is something that I would have been willing to buy because, yeah, you can't have just one chicken. They're flock animals that will like stress them out so much. It's just not safe for them. They exist the way that they do for a reason. And so that is something that I would have bought probably, but I did get a chicken for free. Yes. Now, my biggest setback since my last no buy update is that I had to get a new phone. And that is because my other phone literally just turned off, wouldn't turn back on. I cannot stand that. And I have talked on this channel about how much I freaking hate planned obsolescence for years, how I hate the fact that we can't, like, things can't last longer than they are, and I think that is intentional, and it makes me very angry. But I did have to get a new phone. I say new, I bought it secondhand from Back Market, but I brought it up because obviously that's a setback. I didn't want to buy any new tech this year. I did kind of anticipate that I would have to buy a new phone. My phone was almost 5 years old, and it was already doing that thing where it will just randomly turn off, and you have to turn it back on, like, even not because the battery's dying, it would just do it. So I did kind of anticipate that that would happen to me, but it turned off and didn't turn back on, and that was not a fun time for me. But there is a win here, because if you look closely, my phone case doesn't look too I don't know, right? This phone is the same size as my old phone. Like, it's literally the same phone, just the newer version. And what's so frustrating about it is all my cases would fit it, except it's like just right here. The camera is just slightly more extended. Like the camera comes over a little bit further. And so my cases weren't fitting it. And I was so upset about that because buying new cases is not cheap. Again, we could talk all day about the problems that Pila is having recently, but we won't get into that right now. Maybe if you want to see that in a different video, let me know. But I didn't want to buy one because I'm on my no buy, because I didn't want to spend the money. I mean, like, obviously, right? Why would I want to spend a bunch of money on a new case when I have a case that is perfectly fine? It just barely crosses the camera. The money I saved by cutting up a case instead of buying a new one versus the money I lost because I had to get a new phone is a little bit sad, but it is what it is. There are unforeseen circumstances we can't account for, and to be honest, I kind of knew that this was going to happen. So there was money in the savings account to buy the new phone. It just never feels good to have to do that. And those are my wins and some of my not so much winning things that happened to me in the last couple months since my last update. I would love to hear in the comments if you have been doing this no buy along with me, what you've been doing to save money. I actually have a series over on my Instagram where I talk about things I did instead of spending, and I think that would be an incredible thing to share. I'm trying to come up with a hashtag so that if you do a roundup of things that you did that week, we can all go to the hashtag and see what each other is doing instead of spending, which I feel like would be really great inspiration and motivation to keep going. So let me know. I'm trying to come up with a hashtag. I'll post it on Instagram. If you don't follow me there, you should. Also, if you think today's sponsor would be helpful to you, Rocket Money, I'm going to leave a link at the top of the description. And remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye, guys.